comparison thing is going to kill you. Share your work. Uh, Perfection is a sliding scale. Like perfection is, you don't want any of that. That's the enemy of art, I think. It kills great ideas before they even get a chance to happen.
In this episode of the Creative Debrief, I sit down with Travis Knight, an illustrator and designer from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and he and I discuss a little bit about what his journey was like to transition from designer to a full-time illustrator. We also talk a little bit about the challenges that he faced along the way and some of the successes that he's had. One of them being an exciting project that he had to work with Netflix and the viral video that came from it. All right, everybody, we are here with Travis Knight. Travis, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I am an illustrator and designer and painter. Uh, and I live here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Um, Been working freelance for about 2.5 years. Before that, worked for about 13 years as a graphic designer, um, kind of art director, did all that stuff, and then decided to rent a space and junk it up with a bunch of stuff and call myself a freelancer. So that's what I did.
I love it. I love it.
I should have picked up a little bit. Sorry.
Oh, no problem.
But yeah, whatever.
I think we're getting to see you for who you really are, Travis. A real
Sorry. That's it. That'll be on my tombstone. Sorry about the mess. That's what'll be on my tombstone.
Well, tell us a little bit about what made you decide to go into illustration over design.
Yeah, so I kind of started out in college. Part one was painting and drawing. I've always been into making art and drawing and stuff. And some of the first things that I started drawing were definitely comic books, which is where a lot of kids start out drawing comic books. I fell in love with the work of Drew Struzan. I don't know if you know who he is. He's the iconic illustrator of all the Lucasfilm stuff. Like he did all the Star Wars posters, all the Indiana Jones posters, pretty much every movie poster in the 1980s that was illustrated was probably done by Drew Struzan. Um, and so I always kind of knew what illustration was. Like I even when I got into fine art and stuff, so I always enjoyed that. And graphic design and illustration sort of overlap with each other. And one thing that I really love about graphic design and learning about it is that like all the things that I love are can be encompassed in it. So like music, a graphic designer can have their hands in that, or film, or illustration, painting, anything. Like you can incorporate that into your graphic design practice. And so basically what was happening is that I started kind of doing freelance on the side with some, just illustration and doing like really fun poster projects, and it just those kind of things kind of kept building and building, and I was getting more and more work as an illustrator, and which was great for me because that's really what I resonate with a lot. I was spending a lot of time, um, you know, designing websites and stuff like that. And there was something about like drawing at the end of the day was so awesome. But yeah, yeah. So that's kind of how I got into the business, I guess, and I guess when you're in the illustration business, you're sometimes in it and you're sometimes out of it. You're kind of always going back and forth, but yeah, it's crazy.
I would think that there would be an ebb and a flow to the business.
Yeah, there definitely is. I mean, I feel like a couple of years ago, I was getting some pretty high profile gigs, and last year too. And then this year kind of started off sort of slow. And I've gotten a couple of really fun things. But, you kind of find ways to make it work, ways to pad you know, um, your work and your schedule and everything. So yeah, it's like usually when I don't have client work, I start working on things for myself. And so I'll do like a print release, or I'll, do some painting and do some commissions. I do a lot of commission work too. So
Well,
yeah,
nice. Was there a moment whenever so when you were transitioning from your side hustle to your full-time hustle, I guess, gig, um,
yeah.
was there a moment where you're like, yes, this is it. This is the direction that I want to go. I want to do illustration more than design. So that's what I'm going to focus on. Or were you just kind of like, oh, look, here I am?
Yeah, I don't know if there was like one moment. I will say though, I mean, we both share a friend, Victoria Carlson, and we both worked at True North Publishing. Uh, I was, when you're working in the publishing world, there's always like, at least for me at that time, we would work really hard for about 2 weeks, and it was just crazy deadlines. And then there would be about 2 weeks where there just wouldn't be stuff. Like you're kind of waiting
Mhm.
on content to come in. And so during that time, I would kind of do tutorials or whatever on digital illustration and how to use a Wacom tablet and how to color drawings and stuff like that. So I really started working on that stuff, and Victoria saw it, and she was like, "Hey, help us do this video project." So we did some video project. I think it was, I can't remember if it was Bank of America or something like that, but it was a video animation thing, and it was my first time kind of dipping in and doing a full blown illustration project, and that was all Victoria helped me out doing that. So that was really when I was like, wait a minute, I can, this is can be my job too. Like I can do that. And there's something too that happens. Like you get online or whatever, and you see these illustrators or artists or whatever, and you're like, oh man, they're so untouchable. Like they're so like, how do you do this? You can literally email them. Like you can hit them up on Twitter. Like they're just sitting in a room like this too. I mean, they're just people. So it was kind of like, I think some of us sort of need permission, and there's really no one to give you permission. But Victoria gave me permission to do that, and I haven't been able to stop since.
Oh man, I love that.
Yeah,
I think we
yeah,
all have a point in our lives where, and really about like different scenarios where we give ourselves
hmm
permission to do something, we kind of realize that we don't need somebody else to tell me it's okay to do that. But
yeah.
it's really nice when that happens, and I love when there are people in our lives that give us permission to do things.
Oh, for
I
sure,
kind
for
of love
sure.
that it was Victoria that
Oh yeah, yeah. That's yeah.
that's
She's great.
so
Yeah.
okay, so that's kind of cool that you talked about that because I think now, so for those who don't know about Chattanooga, it's a pretty we have a pretty burgeoning arts community and a lot of really
hmm
great artists here. And Travis may not know this, but he's pretty well known in the community for his illustration work. And there
Yeah.
have been a few times, I think, where those who are not Travis, so we're on the outside looking in, are like, "Whoa, Travis,
hmm
that's like really, really cool. How did you do that?" And
hmm
you almost become untouchable, like those folks that you're talking about, but you're not. You're just a
hmm
human, and you're very approachable. Uh, which I
hmm
think what you're saying is that most illustrators are. But so my hope is
hmm
that people will be able to see that people who we view as successful are truly just humans too, and they have a
hmm
journey as well.
hmm I'm not human though. I will say that I am a reptilian entity that has been trapped in human form. So I just want to clarify that. I don't want anybody. I'm approachable,
But you're
but
not
I'm a
human.
reptilian. Yes, yes, I am not human. So yeah,
I love
I just want to be very clear.
I love it. Well, maybe that's why your work is so cool.
Who knows? Yeah, who knows?
So what's one of the I'd say one of your most favorite projects that you've worked on?
I mean, so a couple of years ago, I was approached by Netflix to work on a project for Stranger Things and Target, and so it was kind of like a branding, or it's like kind of a officially licensed Stranger Things merch for Target, which was really awesome, and because I love that show, and it was such an amazing project. I mean, it was probably one of those projects that was like okay, I think I'm gonna probably do this full time, after that. That was in, I wouldn't say 2001, or I mean, 21,
Mhm.
2021, I think is when I got that job. And it was so cool. And they were so easy to work with. And the shirt, I designed this shirt. So I have this kind of like red and blue style that is kind of, it takes from like anaglyph is what it's called. So like the classic, I usually have some around the classic 3D glasses, the red and blue lens. So I'll do like a red illustration. Usually it's a skull, and then, or a blue illustration is usually skull. And then the red is, the business end. It's the face or whatever. I did this illustration in that style of 11, the character 11. And she had the buzzed hair on one layer and then her long California hair because it was the season where they were living in California or whatever. And so I did that, and I'm teamed up. There were three other artists that were amazing, like full-time illustrators, really, really amazing, very intimidating. Uh, Super nice people, but their work was super intimidating. And it just looks so cool. And the shirt, you know, the that anaglyph style of art is reactive to light. So, like, if you shine red on it, you're gonna see the blue image. If you shine blue on it, you're only gonna see the red image. And so, I was thinking this will be fun for someone's going to be at a restaurant or a club or something like that, or and it'll be reactive and they'll see it and they'll be, oh, that's kind of fun. I didn't anticipate that the kids these days have those red and blue LED lights all over the room all the time. And so I get a text from a friend of mine. He's like, have you seen this on TikTok? And I'm like, no, because I'm in my 40s and I have no idea how to operate TikTok. And so anyway, I see it, yeah. And so this girl who's like a cosplay blogger with like millions of followers is in her uh, bedroom filming the shirt going off and on. She's like, can't believe it. And it explodes. It kind of goes viral, and all these people are like trying to get it. And then I have to like log into this TikTok account that I had started a million years ago that had like one of those usernames. It's got all the letters at the end, all the numbers and stuff at the end. I was like, okay, let's really do this. And so I was on TikTok for about a month, but but the shirt like they were showing up on eBay for like $200. You couldn't get them at the at Target like anymore. Like it was insane. Like it just really exploded, and that was a super cool project. Also, Netflix flew me out to LA, which was really fun. I got to walk around
Oh,
their
awesome.
studio and their headquarters and all that stuff. But that was cool. And like that's one of those things that when it was happening, I was like, this is, not gonna happen all the time. Don't get too used to this, but it was pretty cool. It was really, really cool. But then a friend of mine also sent me a picture a few weeks ago of one of those Stranger Things shirts on a bargain rack at a Goodwill for $2.
So,
So very humbling.
well, for
Very
all
humbling.
of those people in Chattanooga who couldn't get to Target soon enough before they sold out, they can start looking at
Hmm.
Goodwills now and they could get their shirt.
You're gonna
But I
find them.
think that's how you know
Yeah.
you've truly arrived. And I think they did
Yeah.
sell a lot of those shirts. I know for in our household, the kids have the LED color changing light bulbs, and when we saw
Hmm.
that, we're like, "Oh, it's Travis's shirt!" Ran upstairs because we managed to snag one from the Target before they sold out, and tested
Oh,
it in the
awesome.
rooms, and the kids were like, "Wow, this is so great!"
Yeah.
Really fun to be a
Yeah.
part of that because it felt like a zeitgeist that was actually kind of close to home. So, I think
Yeah, for
in
sure.
that sense, it was really, really fun. And I think for the people who know you, it was just really, really exciting.
This is kind of funny thing that I think about a lot because when, like, before that, so I have this thing where I will get a song stuck in my head, or I'll listen to the same album over and over and over again, or the same song over and over and over again, because that's just how my brain works. Like I'll just get fascinated by a certain song. And before I even got that Stranger Things gig, or before the show had even aired, I was listening to Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill like nonstop. I loved that song so much that like, and when it showed up in that show, and that the shirt was getting paired with that music in all of these
Wow.
posts, it was this weird like
Hmm.
circular, like, you kind of stop for a minute and wonder, like, did I conjure that? Was there some type of magic that I wasn't aware of, and and there was this one moment too, like my wife and I had, like, right after that whole thing had launched, and then it was going viral. I hate that term, but it was kind of blowing up. And while we were driving up to Maine, and we were staying in this little island off the coast of Maine, which was really cool. We stayed there for about a month. But there was a swimming hole, like this old quarry, and I would go there and swim, like in the afternoons and stuff. And there was this like gaggle of girls, like off on the other side, and I just heard them singing Kate Bush, running and talking about Stranger Things, and I was just like, this is so strange to me. I mean, it was really
Well,
wild. It
I
was
mean,
cool.
you should know this. Reptilian entities have special powers.
Ah,
Probably
yeah, that's true. That's
into
true. I've been cut off from the mothership too long, so maybe I can't. Maybe I still
you've
got it.
lost touch, but your
I've
subconscious
lost touch.
knows.
Yeah.
So okay, so we talk a little bit about how another opportunity like that hasn't come along yet.
Hmm.
Well, what do you do? What do you do to like keep your creativity or your creative energy energized or fueled when maybe you don't have as much energy or excitement with the projects that you're working on?
Yeah, I mean, I think with certain projects, like, you I don't know. I've been very fortunate. Like, I can get jazzed about a lot of the projects I work on. Like, there's never really anything that I get that's just like, oh, sometimes there are, some that just kind of keep on going. Like I can't seem to get it to finish. Or sometimes things will die at the concept stage, which has happened to a couple of posters like this year. And, uh, and that's always a bummer, when there's like a kill fee or a project just kind of, for whatever reason. And that's kind of a bummer. But I think doing work for myself, like projects on the side where I try new things, or I experiment, um, or I just keep my hands busy, that always helps. But uh, I saw a really awesome, I think it was a tweet by Stephen King, but he said about, staying creative, and it was about writing. But he's like, when you don't have any ideas, read. When you have too many ideas, write. And I think that there's something about, I used to really stress out, like, oh my God, I got to have a good idea. Got to get out there. And it's like, it's kind of like what we said earlier, like you're operating from fear. Like you're not going to go, you can't run away from something to a good idea. Like you have to, like, calm down, go for a walk, don't draw, don't make anything, just shut up, and like just cool it, man. And like when you do, you'll catch the big fish, like it'll show up. So that's sort of my philosophy, and when I'll talk to like young artists and stuff, and they're like, well, I'm just not inspired. I can't work. And I'm like, well, don't walk away from it. Like, go do something else. Like, you don't lose any artist cred for not making a painting or a drawing or whatever. I mean, just stop, you know?
I would think that the stress of the pressure that you're putting on yourself would actually stop, like keep you from being in
Yeah.
that creative
Oh, it
flow.
does.
And
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you have to make art, whatever it is you're doing, with like some sense of joy. Like, you have to, because that's what people are looking at you for. That's what they want from you. Is like they're looking at they want joy, they want a release from something. And so you have to kind of create from that place. And I think to me it's less about keeping up with creativity or it's less about keeping up with inspiration and more about staying curious about your process and about things and about just life in general.
Mm.
It's kind of what I think it is.
Oh man, that's so cool. And there's so much pressure to keep up with things, like whether it's the latest trends or the latest
Yeah,
technology. And after a while, I think it can get really, really, really overwhelming, especially if you don't have like a really good fit
yeah.
for what where
Well, and that stuff, it's a bucket with a hole in it.
Mhm.
Like, like it's always gonna be like there's always new technology. There's always a new trend. There's always something. And I think when you're younger and you're trying to make a name for yourself or you're trying to figure out where you're at, those things seem very important, because they're of the moment and you're trying to be of the moment. And it's just, yeah, you just kind of, you got to let some of that stuff go and just kind of find your center. And it doesn't mean you find your place and you stay there. Nothing's permanent. You can always change. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers any
Oh,
question.
for sure. No, that was great.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
so. It's hard for me to get my thoughts together too, but I think that what you're saying is really cool because if if you kind of let go of the pressure of
Hmm.
creating things in a certain way and you just focus on relaxing and being your
Yeah,
authentic self as an artist, then you
yeah,
can really run into some cool things. And you're saying experiment,
yeah,
which I think is really,
yeah,
really important. And I
yeah.
think
You got to play,
yeah, yeah, play.
you
Exactly.
know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Speaking of playing, is there anything that you do to promote your own work-life balance? I know as a freelancer, if you're working for yourself, that can be really difficult. Some people have schedules, some people don't. Is there anything that you do to help with that?
Yeah, I usually try to keep a schedule. Um, I like kind of the one thing about renting a studio is that you kind of go that, you have to go there. Um, and I like to keep kind of you know, I roll in here probably about 10 or so, 10:30. And that's usually like I'll kind of do emails and stuff at home. I like to go on long walks with my dog, and just really have a morning. And so, uh, that's, I'll do that. And then sometimes I'll leave here around 4, try to get some exercise, do something like that. And then, I wind up doing a lot of work too, just on the couch in the evening. So kind of to set up what I have to do the next day. So, and that'll be just like drawing on the iPad or, like kind of concept stuff that I can do while I'm like watching TV or something, that, like if I'm concepting ideas or, that kind of stuff. So yeah, but I try to, it gets a little hairy sometimes, like when you're, under deadlines and stuff like that. But I try to like distance myself because again, it comes with like trying to avoid burnout, and like on days where I'm like, I can't go in that studio, I don't go, you know, and it's a luxury. I'm very privileged to be able to do that. A lot of people, and I've worked jobs where it's like, I just can't today, but you have to, and that I've been there as well. But and then there's days where it's like, I mean, I have to get in there, I have to do it just to get this project done or whatever. So it's tricky. I don't know if I have like a real like set in stone way of work life balance, but I just listen to myself, and take myself seriously and that stuff,
Yeah, I think that's really important that you do that, and I
Yeah.
also love that you have the flexibility that when you're like, "I'm not feeling it," you don't go, and obviously, when you have
Yeah.
responsibilities, you take care of them, but,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's really nice. So you talked a little bit about burnout. Do you find that you experience burnout working for yourself less or more?
I don't know. I think it's a different kind of burnout, like that you can, if you let yourself kind of get wrapped up in it, you can really sort of, because like there's also the pressure of like I need to make money. Like there's that kind of burnout. There's also, I think, the burnout that I think every, artist feels, where it's like so much of your personality or your, you know, like it's easy to think that all of this stuff that I make is me. Like, it's kind of like thinking like your job is you. Like, it's kind of like how, you are introduced to somebody and they're like, "Hi, I'm a doctor," and it's like, well, you know, you're more than that, and so I think it's a different kind of burnout, like it's more personal. It feels like, because you can have burnout from a job and try to go get another job. I can't get another me, I'm stuck in this head all the time. So,
Man, that's
so I have to.
okay, so that just got me thinking about something. So when we
Hmm.
work, you work for yourself and you work for other companies too. And so when you're working for
Hmm.
someone else, I mean, as a creative person, it is hard to detach yourself from
Yeah.
negative
Yeah.
feedback or identifying with that job as who you are and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
But it didn't even occur to me. I don't know why, but it didn't occur to me that if you're working for yourself, then it's even more a part of who you
Yeah.
are. And some people
Hmm.
already have trouble separating themselves from what they do professionally. So I just imagine it's even more difficult whenever everything that you create is so tied into your identity. And I just think
Oh, for
about
sure.
people who are a little bit more in the public eye and how difficult that must be. And I know some people
Hmm.
create like a separate persona to help
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
create a little bit
Yeah.
healthier space between those two worlds.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So
Yeah.
okay, so this is a little bit of a departure from what we're talking about, but I want to talk a little bit about self-doubt. You've touched on it a little bit
Hmm.
already, but can you tell us a little bit about
Hmm.
what your experiences with self-doubt have been in your career?
Oh man. I mean, good grief. I could, how much time we got on this thing? I mean, self-doubt is like such a, if you let it, self-doubt in a way can motivate you. Like you got to figure out like what's the, are you calling out problems that you have about the way you deal with things, or like, like I always think it's like, um, I don't know if this is going to make any sense. I used to hate the way I drew hands. And I was like, I hate how I draw hands. And I had all this like, why do I draw hands like this? And I realized like, oh, like that was some self-doubt that I had. Like, I'll never be able to draw hands. And I was like, well, why don't I draw them that way? Why don't I just draw these hands like I've never drawn hands before? And that kind of switched something in my head. But I think like, a lot of times like it's very easy to get into self-doubt, especially when you're trying to, like, illustration is such a strange thing. Like I don't know, because you're always trying to communicate an idea. So like this is like kind of what happens to me whenever I get like a gig poster, like a big band poster. And I got this gig for the Smashing Pumpkins, and it was like they were trying to get this concept, and I was doing like concept after concept after concept, and like nothing was hitting, and I could not communicate something clearly, or they were not picking up what I was putting down, and like it makes you feel like you're losing your mind. Like you're, and then like like it was a very surreal, like it was like pumpkin patch and all this like kind of crazy stuff and really surreal. And then it just, it didn't go. And then I'll see like another illustrator just do a banana, just crazy, like insanely inventive, amazing poster for the same band. And I'm like, what? How did they get that across? Because it's like I feel like when I go crazy, people are like, what are you doing? So yeah, so that self-doubt, it happens. I don't know a way to avoid it. I think the only way out is through. Like you just have a pity party, turn the lights off, have a good cry, and then, you know, figure, just get back up and try to do something. Um, but, and I think another thing that I try to do is be just grateful for the opportunities and what I have in front of me. And that usually kind of calms me down, just kind of like, hey, you get to do this. Like, this is pretty awesome. So, yeah,
Man, that's
gratitude.
yes, gratitude. That's so good to hear and
Hmm.
so good to be reminded of.
Hmm.
I heard this thing somewhere say, and I'm gonna get this wrong, I'm sure of it. But,
Hmm.
I think somebody said that Tom Hanks, every time he gets a new movie, is like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't think I can do this. And I was
Yeah,
like, oh,
yeah,
hold on. If Tom Hanks says that every time he gets a new role,
yeah,
then
yeah.
this is normal what I'm feeling. And
Oh, yeah.
that's what I tell myself because if
Hmm.
I didn't, I would never do anything for the rest of my life.
Oh, yeah,
It can be
yeah.
really
And
crippling.
some things are just like, they're just, you know, some things are just uncomfortable, and I think you have to, it's uncomfortable to start a new thing. And I think that sometimes we need to say, just because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean that it's bad, or that's like you're growing, like you're out of your element, which is where you need to be, like that's sometimes a good thing. So that, and that Smashing Pumpkins poster didn't turn out like there was a kill fee on that, and like they went with another illustrator on that one, which happens, um, but you can't like really think about that stuff too much, it's just kind of how it goes.
Mm.
So, but I'm very thankful that I went through so many rounds of that, and it did kind of make me realize like, okay, this is the fidelity of the concepts that I need to be doing. This is how I need to communicate it. Um, yeah. So,
That's interesting because I usually just say, "No, we're a good fit."
yeah,
But
yeah,
there's
yeah.
always something to be learned from it, right?
Oh, for sure.
Even if it doesn't feel successful, I think there are still you can take
Hmm.
away from it. And I mean, you've had other
Yeah.
successes too, so um,
Hmm.
it's not like you were never successful again after that, or
Yeah.
it didn't define you as a successful
Yeah.
person or not. So,
Yeah.
speaking of that, how do you, as an artist, professional, creative, how do you define
Hmm.
success?
Uh, I don't. I think it's just being able to work. Like I think that that's success. Like I really don't think. I don't buy into the you've made it. I don't buy into the you're at the top of your game, or I don't buy into any of that. I don't like that stuff. Like it's a weird way to grade yourself. Um, and so I think success is just sort of, you know it, it's what you define, like success for me is like being able to bring my dog in here and go for a walk in the middle of the day and not have to clear it with anybody, or that to me is a level of success, and or getting to paint, and just doing that. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I wish I was making a lot more money. you know but it's but that also is not success, because again, you're back in that bottomless bucket, of where you're just throwing stuff in, like how much is how much, I like what, when you start defining those things like that, it's like you just want to keep going, you want to keep going and keep going, and you know which is a good thing to have, but I don't want that to be something that motivates me, success,
Yeah.
you know?
I think it's interesting how different success is for everybody. And what I'm finding is that for the
Mhm.
most part, success ends up being something that is not tied to a dollar
For
amount.
sure, for sure, and I think with this, working freelance and kind of doing what I'm doing now is super fun and it's great. But I also know like there might be a time where I need to go get another job, like another full-time job. And and you got to be all right with that. You can't be like, I used to be this guy, and it's like, no, you're just always that person. Like you're just going in and out of stuff. That's kind of how I think about it.
Hmm.
It's like with how cool that Stranger Things gig was and like what happened with that was such a strange, like it was kind of a fluke in a lot of ways, but but I got to meet like some awesome people and I've gotten more work from Netflix, because of that and like um that was so cool, but you really have to like realize when something's special and that you shouldn't chase it. It just has to be that moment in time and you should be like grateful that it happened.
Yes, timing is
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It really is.
uh, I have so many questions, but we're running up on time. So I wanted to ask you what advice you would give, or what advice would you give to younger illustrators starting out, people who maybe feel that strong urge to draw like you did, but they don't think there's a
Yeah.
path forward for them.
I mean, I think what I did was I just drew all the time. That's the, I hate to tell you, there's no shortcut. You just got to draw all the time. I mean, I guess there is a shortcut with like AI stuff, but you don't want to do that. Uh, but I think, just draw all the time, draw what you're interested in. If you want to be an illustrator and you want to draw comic books, draw comic books. If you want to draw movie posters, draw movie posters. Like, do it and share it, and don't compare yourself to anyone else ever. Like,
Mm.
that will kill your creativity more than anything else. I like admire someone, you know, say like, man, they draw hands so great. That's how I want to draw hands. Then do that. Go after that. Um, you know, don't. The comparison thing is going to kill you. Share your work. Uh, Perfection is a sliding scale. Like perfection is, you don't want any of that. That's the enemy of art, I think. It kills great ideas before they even get a chance to happen. Most great ideas are a mistake, that you happen upon. Um, and I think like for the love of God, don't take yourself too seriously. I mean, like, that's the other thing. I think to be, you know, think about who you're communicating with and how you want to communicate it and just go from there. But share your work, draw every day, um, draw what you like, stay curious about things, try new techniques, always be looking at new techniques and new ways to stay curious about things. And then there you go. There you go. You got it solved. Now you're an illustrator,
That's it.
you know. Yeah. It's like somebody was like, well, how do you become an artist or something? That's like you just say you are.
I love
That's it. Like there's nobody comes around and like puts a knights
it.
you,
Right.
and gives you the golden paintbrush or whatever. It's like you just do it, and
You don't have to be
that's it.
approached by Netflix or work with Netflix to be an
No,
artist or an illustrator.
not at
Yeah,
all. Not at all. I mean, it's yeah, not at all,
that's great. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, this has been awesome, Travis. Thank you so much for sitting down with me and chatting about all of the awesome things you
Yeah.
do. And it's just been really, really good. So thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. No problem. It's super fun.
Great. And now you can go back to being your true reptilian self.
Oh, thank God. No. Wouldn't that be crazy?
Oh, for sure.
I can't do that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Your human eyes could not comprehend my form.
Suddenly this would be the most
So
popular video on YouTube, but I'm sure it would get taken down immediately.
it's AI. You can't even be a reptilian anymore.
Right, right, and right.
Anyway,
Oh my gosh, how funny. All right, well, thank
yeah.
you.